What is going on, everybody? Bobby Fi here, waiting on Sheets. He's going to join me in a minute. Hope everybody's doing well. Good to see you guys live again. We got some baseball, and now it's actually heating up a little bit. It should be a good series. I feel like there's like a lot of interesting series here. I wish these were 4 out of 7s, but they're 3 out of 5s, which should make it at least more exciting, I guess. But it's going to be fun. Real quickly before we get into all the plays and everything, I do. I like the Astros to win their series. I'm really pulling for Seattle. I think Cleveland and the Yankees is gonna be a really good series. I think that series could go either way. I give a very, very slight edge to the Yankees, but it wouldn't surprise me if I had to pick an upset. I think Cleveland, Seattle, and Philly are my 3 favorites. It's hard for me to decide the order. I think one of those 3 get through. If I had to pick one, I think I might think about picking Cleveland. And then I like the Dodgers over the Padres, but it just feels weird. We completely own this team, and it's just a little nerve-wracking going into the division series. Basically, got to get this first one tonight. So hopefully it'll happen. Was supposed to go to the game tonight. DraftKings offered me tickets to this or Game 3. I have a bachelor party this weekend in San Diego, so I am going to go to Game 3 instead of Game 1 today. It's in LA. But it should be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to heading down to San Diego and, going to see that one. So I'm still waiting on an official time for it, by the way. I don't know if I have the time for it. But anyway, say what's up when you get on in here. Ask your thoughts. Pop in what you think of this slate. In terms of, we always talk about the same thing on these small slates is how to get different. Nothing's different for the playoffs. So we should be doing the same thing. I'll real quickly, while we're waiting for Sheets, go through my favorite bats from each game because I think all the pitchers are viable. Then I'll talk about some pitching. For Philadelphia, my favorite bat is Real Muto. He's going to be very low owned. 36 career at bats in this matchup against Fried. He's 12 for 36, 5 extra base hits, couple home runs. He'd be my favorite Philly bat if I had to pick one. If I had to pick one Atlanta bat, other than it would naturally be Acuna, but I think Contreras is my second favorite bat. Very brief sample size, but has been good against Suarez so far. I think that you've got an argument for some guys in Seattle. Carlos Santana has a huge. I mean, has a big history against Verlander here, and he's got 9 career home runs and 84 at bats. That's a lot of at bats. That's getting to like one of the larger samples we ever get. So I kind of like the idea of Santana as a one-off where you're not using Verlander. You could make between Santana as a cheap first base option or Mancini. I still slightly preferred Mancini, but factory and ownership and everything, I think that you could definitely make a pretty good case that it's reasonable to play Santana. Favorite bat for the Astros would be Kyle Tucker and Trey Mancini. For the Indians, it's Jose Ramirez and Josh Naylor. For the Yankees, it's Aaron Judge and Jose Trevino because of the price. For the Padres, it would be Manny Machado. And for the Dodgers, it would probably be Trey, Mookie. Either if you need value, Bellinger, Muncy, and Smith are the other 2 that are obviously not values, but those are my favorite bats. What I'm doing at pitching is I'm mixing it up a little bit today, but mostly what I'm focused on is playing Verlander, and I really like the idea of playing Suarez at low ownership here in this matchup. The Braves do have some strikeouts in their bats. He's only about 23% strikeout rate in 100 plus plate appearances against this team. I think it's reasonable enough at 5,600 to take that chance there. I think Suarez is my preferred spend down. I don't mind if you want to do Quantrill either. Been sneaky good this year, and I don't mind Gilbert, but I am finding myself siding with Suarez and Verlander in my main build. No problem if you want to go Fried Urias. I have no problem if you want to go Cole Verlander, and then there's plenty of ways to spend down, but or a few ways to spend down, I should say. But I really like the idea of using Suarez at low ownership and getting different that way while playing Dodgers and Yankees. And again, I don't think you need to go full stacks here. I think my lineups are going to look like 3-3-2s, 4-3-1s, things like that. And I just want to point out that in Atlanta today, another reason I like Suarez, 10-mile-an-hour winds blowing in from left field, which means you got a lefty facing righties who can give up home runs, and you take away at least a percentage of that. And I think it's a decent spot for Suarez to have a big game at a cheap price and really low ownership. So that's what I'm looking at doing today. I get what's up, Brad Pill? Good to see you, man. Good luck to you as well. Favorite GVP pitchers? I think I just said it. I think Suarez because of the ownership. Both Suarez and even Clevenger at 5,300. You know, he could get through 5 innings and get there theoretically. The question is like, how much of a premium does the position end up being worth? So I think you could go up to Cole and Verlander as the chalk. And I think that, you know, I most likely am going to play one of those guys with one of the Gilbert, Suarez, Quantrill, Clevenger guys, and I'm leaning Suarez right now. So those are my GPP guys. Everybody keeps asking the same question. So hopefully they just heard me say it because I just went through all my pitchers. And I don't look at it like that. So everybody else who does these rankings and this and that, and this is the number one, this is that. No, it depends on the situation of what I'm trying to build, right? Like, you know, everybody's affordable enough. So the guys I'm looking at are clearly these, you know, I'm playing Verlander as of right now with Suarez in my main build. That's where I'm at. No, I don't like the Atlanta. It's fine, Atlanta Philly game stack. You've got the most wind against you do of any game in the slate. It's not the usual launching weather for Atlanta, but it is Atlanta, so it's still a better hitter's park, so it evens out a little bit. But no, I am not on the Atlanta Philly game stacks at all. I think Atlanta's fine. I do have some Atlanta stacks, and I think Philly's fine. But like Fried just doesn't, you know, he had a couple of those weird bad games. But even those games, he gave up 2 home runs. They were 2 solo home runs and gave up literally nothing else. So I'm not as into trying to pick on Fried. It's not him, you know. You could argue, I guess you'd say he's probably along with Urias, just about, you know, the 3rd best pitcher on the slate. But I mean, look, it's a small slate, so it's fine. It's not like a game that I don't look at, you know, oh, it's cooler than usual in Atlanta and the wind's blowing in, and go, okay, well, I need to stack that game. I also think it's going to have its fair bit of ownership, and it's also hard to get to the pitching to the prices of some of these hitters, which is partly another thing that makes the stack a little bit tricky. And if you're going to end up having to play guys like Vierling and Sosa and things like that, maybe I'd rather do something else than come up with that game stack. My favorites are the Dodgers and Yankees. And after that, I would go Houston, then Atlanta for me personally. And there is Sheets.
I got confused myself. I was waiting for you to send a link to record. I forgot that we were going live.
Oh, the live part. Oh, I got it. Now I see your messages. I wasn't looking at my phone.
Yeah, no, my bad.
No worries. How's it going? How was the?
I was thought you were going to send the link last night.
I messed up with that. Sorry about that.
I was all set. I was going to show like the videos of like it's crazy, man. You know, it's a whole other experience. You know, at the League of Legends thing, it was a Hulu theater, and which is about, you know, several thousand seats, right alongside of Madison Square Garden, and there wasn't a seat to be found. Totally freaking jammed. The souvenirs were freaking flying off the shelves, like $130 sweatshirts, you know, like all kinds of craziness there. And I tell you, it was very, 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 very raucous crowd. And, you know, for those of you who have never done this before, this is one of the reasons I do this is I decided this was going to be kind of my quest over the next, like, starting like last year, is to just, as long as I'm going to be gambling on all this DFS stuff, to go live to like at least once for like all these things, you know. Yeah. And that's why I went to NASCAR last year for the first time. Actually, I went to the tennis this year, which I had been before, and I went to baseball, and I still haven't gotten to football this year.
Your Giants are rolling right now.
Yeah, football is such a freaking ordeal, though, to go to. Anyway, So I'd never been. Obviously, I'd never been to the League of Legends thing before, and it so happened that the Worlds, I guess it's like this quarterfinal round, was at Hulu Theater. So I took the opportunity to go, and I just kind of like observing. And one of the things it's interesting is I always like to compare the kind of like the gap between what it's like to go to a live sporting event as opposed to the experience on the TV. You know, like where the gap is kind of like the greatest versus where the gap is the smallest. Like I have found that actually the sport for me where the gap is so far the biggest is actually golf. Be able to actually go to the golf and be within like 1 inch of the players like, and go wherever you want and see wherever you want or whatever. To me, I found that the experience gap is the highest over there. And so far, the one that it's kind of like the same is, I guess I would say tennis is pretty much the same as watching. And what's weird about this one is if you think about the concept of going someplace live to watch people play a game on their laptop is basically what it is. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you have these people are up on the stage and you're looking at them. You can barely see their faces. Their like faces are like buried in their laptops, and they're like playing, and the entire like game is up on these two monitors. You know what I mean? Like these two enormous monitors. So the one thing is that the actual experience of actually watching it is exactly the same. There's no gap at all. But the difference, obviously, here, you know, as opposed to sweat on TV, is the environment is like kind of crazy. Like seeing like all of the fans there, you know, just kind of rooting and stuff like that. And it was nice. You got a lot for your money. I mean, the first game started at 5. I wasn't out of there until like 11:30. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was like 6 hours of stuff, and everybody's really into it. I would say just like call it what it is. I mean, the as far as the like what type of people were there, I would say that's 70% Asian were there, which made a little sense to me. And I would say most people were young. I would say a good amount male. But there were some females there, and there. One thing I did notice, and should come as no surprise either, is that in my section, at least the people I was like listening to and observing and kind of kibitzing with, I mean, everybody that I was around, at least, they knew more about League of Legends than I knew about literally anything on the face of the earth. Okay, like they were like so knowledgeable about what they were watching. I'm like, I mean, this is you know, when you have a big fan base and you have like people that are really into it, that's what it is. But I don't know if I would go back, but I'm definitely glad that I went. So that was cool. That was good. Did you start talking about the slate yet?
Yeah, I went through like my favorite bats from each game, and I went through my favorite. The pitching is a little spread out. Like even for me, I don't not playing a ton of lineups. I sort of sided with Verlander as my preferred spend up, and I think Fried and Urias are really, really close in the middle. I would give a slight edge to Urias, and then I think that at the bottom end, I have some interest in all the guys, but I think Suarez and Gilbert are my favorite, and I think I'm going to end up in my main build to use Verlander and Suarez.
You know what? You know, I want to talk about a couple of things. Listen, I got nowhere to go right now.
Yeah.
I put some time up. We haven't talked about we'll talk about football maybe some other time, but I want to talk about that baseball for a few minutes because I know you've been pretty vocal about your thoughts on like playoff baseball and how unrepresentative it really is. Not unrepresentative, how weird it is to declare a champion in that format. You know, but I don't know what the other options are. But that's and so every year they kind of change the wild card format. You know, whatever it is, I always wonder. You know how it's going to impact it. And one thing I noticed, I mean, even putting all 3 games at home, like the home field meant nothing pretty much. Right. Pretty much. And you know, the pitching in that Cleveland series was just amazing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
just
not unscored in the series.
Nobody would give an inch in there. And then I have to say, man, the Mets just got freaking owned. You know what I mean? Like they own themselves. I don't know what it is. It's like it came out. They had even though they kind of like backed their way in a little bit. You know, they didn't close the season out particularly strong, but you know, so they earned they earned their spot having to play the wild card round. You know what I mean? Like they could have won the division, not dealt with it. But you know what? You go into a 3-game series with freaking Scherzer and DeGrom. You're kind of supposed to win. You know what I mean? Or whatever. And they got to even that 3rd game, and they were not competitive like from the first inning. And then the Padres, they did all the right things. They moved runners over. And even like just Soto like reaching out with a total professional at bat to basically put the dagger in with those last 2 RBIs. You know what I mean? Like and then Musgrove, I mean, like was real, he was really good. And then the Mets with the protesting with the ear, I'm like, it's
Mhm.
I'm old enough to remember, by the way, in 1986 when they won the World Series in the championship series round they were playing the Astros, and Mike Scott was like completely unhittable. They basically out of nowhere that season he became completely unhittable.
Yeah.
And in that series, like nobody could hit him. Like in the first game, I think he struck out 14 guys, and it was either a high fastball that no one can get near, or this ridiculous cutter that just dropped off. And the Mets were like bitching that it was cutting the ball and all this stuff. And once you get in somebody's head like that, it's like over. You know what I mean? There were like videos. I remember when I was watching it, like the ball would come to the Mets dugout, they would pass it back and forth to one another and inspecting it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then when they sent, I just remember that. I reminded of that when they sent someone out to freaking mess with Musgrove or whatever it is. That didn't work. And then once they could get and they hit the ball kind of hard a couple of times in that game, but you know what? That's the way it goes. And then just when like whatever, then you're like, okay, well, if you thought there's any chance, here comes Hader. Have a nice day, you know what I mean, or whatever. So they just got just not competitive in a deciding game, which is kind of weird, but that's the way that goes. So we get to today. I first looked at the chalk, if you want to know the truth, as far as pitching goes. Like you say you were spread out. I had it as just Cole, Verlander, and Fried. I didn't get to the other guys. So you're telling me that you have interest in Urias at 8,700?
Oh no, he was like fifth on my list. I said Suarez, Verlander.
Suarez would be the next guy for you.
Yeah. Suarez, I like the ownership. I like the price, and I think that the upside is there. He's been basically the same versus Atlanta this year that Fried has been versus Philly. It's like looking at the same thing. And even though we know Fried is a better real life pitcher, getting, I don't know. I really think that a lot of these guys are going to end up like 16 to 20 fantasy points. And I think Suarez could be he's got a ceiling, and he's cheap, and he's going to be low owned, and he allows me to get in the big bats I want from the Yankees and Dodgers.
Is this is this series 4 out of 7 yet?
No, it's 3 out of 5.
3 out of 5.
I'm supposed to go to the game tonight, but I decided I got them to give me tickets for Friday because I have a bachelor party on Friday in San Diego. So I'm now going to game 3 in San Diego instead of game 1 today.
I don't know if there's been any talk about Clevenger having any kind of pitch count or something like that.
Everybody speculates and everything. There's no real pitch count. There's no reason to think he's going to have a pitch count.
Did he come in the other day?
Which
did he come in out of the bullpen a couple of days ago? I forget.
In the playoffs, I don't know. It wouldn't matter anyway because he's had 10 days off. So
okay.
I don't think that would be any factor. And you're not counting on him to throw more than 80 to 90 pitches anyway.
Right. I think that. And tell me about San Diego's bullpen.
In general, it's a good bullpen, but. Yeah, I'm not.
No, I asked it for a reason.
At this point of the season, everybody's got a good bullpen, basically.
I listen. Besides Hader, you know what I mean. But I ask you for this for a reason, and I've been, I wouldn't say vocal about it, but I've been kind of just, I would say anti-Clevenger. I mean, Clevenger's been great for like a long time. It seems at least. But this year I've always felt there's something amiss, and never really felt comfortable playing him. And I think he's going to get blasted in this game. I think it's almost like the Padres were not even expecting to get through, something like that. They're not even prepared. Now we really have to play the Dodgers. I think it's
no. I think they do good.
I don't know. I think this game is dead. I think Dodgers win this like easily. I think that Clevenger is a big problem, and I think the Dodgers. And I haven't looked at like what kind of. Listen, I built SaberSim lineups, just the reserve stuff. I literally didn't even see what they are yet. I saw like a bunch of Philly, whatever it is, but I'm gonna talk through this with you. I mean, just instinctively, I think the Dodgers. I think they just destroy him in this game, and then that's why I asked about the bullpen. And I think that once they do get the 4, if they put 4 or 5 up against him, I don't think that the Padres would waste the best part of their bullpen either. And I think this game is a 10-0 game. I really do. I think that's my opinion on this game. I don't think the Padres care too much about that. You know what I mean? Listen, they come off the 5-gamer.
I don't think the Padres have tried desperately to make this more of a national thing. This rivalry with the Dodgers.
Oh, really?
We felt in the 80s. Yeah, this is a huge thing. Every move they do, they reference the Dodgers afterwards.
My point though is that I think that kind of like saving not saving whatever. I don't know what the Padres have in the what I know they have Darvish and Musgrove, right? Those are the two pitchers that they want. They would like to have the Dodgers have to face twice, but they can't do But Musgrove pitched too early. I think
they would be happy to pitch Snell too, even though he struggled.
Snell, I forgot about that. Sorry about that. So the Snell Musgrove thing. So this starting this Clevenger thing just kind of weird to me. Anyway, that's my gut opinion. I haven't looked at the project. I haven't looked at where my builds would take me. I presume that because it's the playoffs, you can play whoever you want. But I guess if I want to play Cole and Verlander, then that the Dodgers are going to be kind of tough to get to. For the projections,
so tough though, because like Chris Taylor should be back in the lineup at 3,100, Lux is 3,200, Bellinger's 3,300. You can still do it.
I'll tell you the projections are telling me that the best play hitting wise is Houston by a decent amount. Is that accurate? Are they going to be really chalky and all that?
No, I think that the most popular has got to be the Yankees.
Okay.
I would imagine because Judge naturally is always going to be the highest owned player on a slate like this because it's hard to find home runs. I think it's going to be a combination of the Dodgers, Houston, and New York. But I actually think the Dodgers will be a little bit lower owned they'll probably be a little bit higher owned as a team than Houston, but very close. I think they'll be a little bit lower owned than the Yankees as an overall team.
I will tell you in my initial builds, just based on projections, running through Saberson, whatever. I will tell you what I got. I got 0 Yankees, and I got 0 Houston. What I got was, and I got 60% Atlanta.
But are you really stacking 5-3 as like your only thing on?
I didn't do anything yet. I'm just saying what they
gave you. No, but are they giving it to you in 5-man stacks though only? Or?
No. So overall, as far as the stack types. They're a little everything. Actually, they're gonna be a little everything.
Okay.
Yeah. But with respect to like just overall team ownership, whatever it is, Atlanta, then Philly, then Seattle, then actually San Diego. I'm just telling you what I'm getting. Then Cleveland, then the Dodgers, right? And as far as 5-man stacks, the 2 teams that I'd be getting 5-man stacks of actually are just Seattle and Philly, for whatever, you know what I mean? So what's interesting is that I'm not getting the Houstons that much, if at all, like none. And I'm also in my initial builds, I'm getting, obviously a good amount of Cole and Verlander, probably like 70% each. And then Fried, Gilbert, Quantrill. Just based on projections, I'm not getting Suarez. But again, this is 4-game slate. Who gives a crap? You know what I mean? But I just thought I just want to see what I'm getting there.
Yeah, no, it's worth throwing it out there. I have a hard time with the idea of a 5-man Seattle stack against a guy who hasn't had a bad game all season.
Yeah, I know.
So that's my only hard time with it. I'm off of mostly. I do have a couple of Braves stuff, but like, and the Braves will. I mean, again, also be fairly popular. It's a small slate, so of course a lot of these teams are going to be. But I'm off the hitting for the most part in that game. And again, I'll take any little reason to another reason I like Suarez. You have 10-mile-an-hour winds blowing in from left field, 70 degrees, which is better hitting weather than other places today. But at the same time, it's not as good as it usually is in Atlanta. And so, those 10-mile-an-hour winds blowing in when you have 2 lefties on the mound makes it just a little bit harder to hit a home run. And especially for a guy in Suarez who can struggle with the home run stuff. That's another reason I like him and why I'm a little bit off of some of these bats in what seemed like a good spot. I don't think you're getting way off the board. Obviously, the Dodgers and Yankees are not getting way off the board or anything. But I think by playing Suarez, I'm getting enough off the board, and I'm doing a a 4-3-1 stack right now.
For your main one.
In my main build. And
are
then
you playing FanDuel today or no?
No, I didn't get into the big one in time, so I didn't end up getting it out there. But yeah, I didn't end up getting over there. I guess there are some differences in the pricing that if you noticed anything that you might want to point out, but I can double check what
I didn't really look yet at FanDuel.
I'll take a quick look over there and just double check the pricing.
Yeah, it's the same. I mean, pitching wise, Cole and Verlander, big surprise. It's definitely a big drop for me, at least, to Fried from both those two. And again, that shouldn't come as any surprise either.
Yeah, I agree with that. The hitting is a little more well. It's easier to get. It's still easy to get them in though because they're not like crazy. You always have the cheap bats like Will Smith is 3,200, and instead of the 5K on DraftKings, Max Muncy's 2,800. I expect guys like Muncy will be much more popular on FanDuel than they will on DraftKings because of the pricing. Looking at other things that stand up, nothing that's really like overwhelmingly egregious in terms of the price. And the Yankees are a little bit more expensive over there, percentage of salary wise.
I have the 4 favorites, right? Yeah. The 4 favorites. I have them on FanDuel literally dead tied for fantasy points as far as the hitting goes. I mean, like I have Dodgers, Yankees, Braves, and Astros. Those 4. And I have ownership pretty close with all 4 of them too. Atlanta, I have as the lowest owned on FanDuel.
Of those 4.
Of those 4. But not that anything's low owned, but that's.
Yeah, it is interesting because you would have thought today that Atlanta would be a lot chalkier. I still think they're going to have some pretty decent ownership. And again, you have one lefty in your lineup where the wind's blowing in 10 miles an hour. But again, you don't need necessarily multi-home run games in the postseason and only 4-game slates. Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on out there.
If anybody has questions, feel free to fire them in here. We usually get a couple of. We had
some at the beginning. Cheats, what are you doing? What are you doing? You are going to play Cole Verlander, you think, a pretty good amount. I think it's a good idea.
First of all, I just want to make sure that I'm seeing everything. I don't see any chat at all.
No, it popped up. It happened before you got here, but there's
I see. That's what it is. Okay. More people watching here than usual for this time of day. So.
Yeah, I mean, at 9 a.m. or whatever, noon on a.
Yeah. So I just want to see MLB if there's anything worth playing on FanDuel, and of course the answer is no. Okay, so you took care of that. I could try to beat like 1 million people to get a 1K for first. Not exactly. That would provide max tilt if you want to know the truth. So yeah, I think that is what I'd like to do is pay for both pitchers. And everybody's like, oh great, must be nice, Yeah, sure, so would I. But I think you could do it.
I can highlight some value if you want. Like
yeah, go for it.
You have the Houston first base. Well, I guess Mancini's outfield eligible. So the guys who I'd be using for value, like you've got the Gurriel option, but I prefer Mancini. I actually like Carlos Santana. I mentioned he's for whatever reason, he has 9 home runs and 80 at-bats off of Verlander. That's a lot of home runs off of one pitcher. I don't remember seeing that from too many guys in all of baseball off of one pitcher having more than like 6 or 7 home runs. The Matt Vierling, things like that are less likely something I would do. I think he's very high pinch hit risk. The thing is, then again, you'd expect Fried to go pretty deep into the game, but that's also not good for you. So Edmund Sosa is another one. Orlando Arcia is very likely to be pinch hit for. In fact, I would almost guarantee that one. So those are the ones I don't like as much. The ones I will be using are Bader. I mentioned Santana already. Bader, Mancini are my favorites. Taylor, Bellinger, Trevino at 2,400 is my favorite catching option. And then I would take maybe you take a one off of a clinic or something like that. But those are the super cheap guys. And then other guys who are just a little bit like Jeremy Pena is probably too cheap at 3,700. DJ LeMahieu's pretty cheap at 4,100. Nick Castellanos is probably a little too cheap at 3,400. Kyle Tucker at 4,400. Oswaldo Cabrera at 3,200. Alex Bregman at 42. All those guys that stand out as sort of being good mid-range ones. But if I'm not playing Suarez today, I do have a lot of Matt Olson as a preferred first baseman, just for the reason that I don't see, I feel like he gets treated like there's a huge gap between he and Freeman and all these other guys. And while that might be true as real overall hitters, in terms of their actual fantasy output, it's really, really close between those guys. And the lefty tends to scare people off with Olson. So I like the idea of playing Olson at 4,700. Olson and Rizzo, if I had to have a one-off, would probably be the guys I'd go with if I wasn't spending down. But I am mostly spending down at first base.
Spending down at pitchers or something.
Yeah. Yeah, see, these kind of questions I never know what to do because, Banks is awesome. He was here last night too. But prefer spending up for Jordan Alvarez on FanDuel. I don't know what that means. Like, prefer instead of what? Like, I don't have any Jordan Alvarez lineups. I also have there's nothing wrong with playing Jordan Alvarez, and he's a good play as always. But we've got a bunch of guys like that, and I just like the other ones better. Yeah, Bregman and Alonso. So you're just taking the best hitters from Houston. Yeah, if you want to play the best hitters from Houston, that's one of the viable stacks. There's really nothing to add to it.
No, there's no lineups yet out for a couple of these teams.
Yeah, there's not going to be for a while.
Cleveland, San Diego,
everybody but Seattle, Atlanta, and Philly.
Okay, so the last two games. Okay.
No, and the Astros too. The second game.
I see Chris Taylor. It says day to day. He will take at-bats Sunday and Monday. I don't know what this means. So we have to see he's going to play. Obviously, we have to see who everybody can play.
Yeah. And look, the Gilbert thing. Well, people are going to play Houston. I just want to point out that Gilbert's actually been pretty damn good against these guys so far this season. And this isn't.
There've been a lot of guys that are pretty good against Houston. You know what I mean? Houston's really good, but
I actually think that Houston is one of the most over. I mean, I think that this team is good. It's really good, but this is not like. I mean, Gurriel, McCormick. I mean, the fact that and I like McCormick even fine or whatever, and Maldonado. You have some weak spots in that lineup, and then you've got strikeout guys like Alvarez and Tucker will both strike out. Pena will strike out. It's a good lineup. Don't get me wrong, but when we look at all these teams, I feel like there's sort of an air of invincibility around Houston that I just think they just get like a little bit too much credit. Maybe that's also because I'm biased and they stole a title from us, literally.
Oh, that's the way. So let's go back to basics here for a minute. Okay, so let's talk about the slate a little bit. So we have Cole and Verlander there at the top, and then you have Freedy's the next best pitcher, and he's a little less strikeout upside than these two. I want to talk about these guys for a minute. So Garrett Cole is pitching against the toughest team to strike out in baseball. Actually, maybe I'm making that up, okay? But it certainly seems
against righties, you're right.
Yeah, and he also has been, he's been
pedestrian,
erratic. You know what I mean? That's the best. That would be the negative way to put it. You know what I mean? Certainly not consistent. And with guys like this, the smaller the slate and the more they're going to be on, I don't know. Like, it's I would be careful with this. On the other hand, okay. So now we look at Verlander for a second. So Verlander is a better pitcher than everybody, right? Like he said, right. I was about to say Garrett Cole, then I was going to say Roger Clemens. You know what I mean? Like, so then I'm going to get yelled at. So I would say Justin Verlander is a better pitcher than everybody. And I'm not too worried about the matchup when it comes to Verlander. I don't think that Verlander is going to strike out 13 Mariners. You know what I mean? I don't think he's going to get 40, but I think that he's as close to the upside as Cole, especially considering the matchup. And
I don't know why he doesn't consider to have more upside, really.
Maybe he does. I mean, you know what? Now I'm biased. Now I'm thinking that Verlander is more of a guy that's just going to get outs than to get strikeouts now.
But down the stretch, he went crazy with his strikeouts. Like he started striking out like literally like what was he striking out like 30% of the hit players. He was higher than that actually. He picked it up a little bit at the end of the season, and partly it's because they were limiting some of his innings and his pitches so he can go out there and try and attack more. I think Verlander and Cole both have tremendously higher upside than everybody else does. I think Verlander's is higher in my opinion.
And then you have Max Fried, who, and again, this is like bias and stuff like that, but maybe I think the Phillies are just better than they actually are. You know what I mean?
I think they are better. I agree with you though, Ashish. I actually like your feeling on the Phillies because the bottom of the order is a little shaky, but I mean, Segura doesn't strike out, but he put the ball in play or whatever. But I do think the Phillies don't get credit for like 1 through 6. These guys work counts. They make you throw a lot of pitches. Hard to really hit your ceilings against them. But the question is, do you need a ceiling today? Or another question is, can you get as many points from Fried as somebody who's 2 or 3K cheaper? And do you want to go that way?
Yeah. So for me, I think that I want to get to the other guys. So I think that the Fried play is I think probably the fishiest of the spend ups, if you want to know the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that Cole in kind of a bad game can still get there. I think that Verlander in kind of a subpar game can get there. I don't think that Fried in a subpar game is going to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first thing. And if I think that he's fishy, I think playing Philly makes sense. Now let's talk about those cheapos that we were talking about. So Suarez, Quantrill, who else is there?
Suarez, Gilbert,
and Gilbert. Okay.
Yeah, and I unlike, even though I'm playing the Dodgers, I will be lying if I didn't say I threw out a Clevenger lineup.
Yeah.
Dodgers didn't exactly end the season on a high note themselves. They were having trouble. They were trying to
play for anything in a while,
But they let everybody play. They had their top lineups out there, and they just weren't scoring runs.
Well, it's interesting. People they always debate about that. Like, what type of team would you rather have in the playoffs? People that are just rested and haven't been competing the last couple of months, or the team that's had to win like every game in the last 10 to get there. You could argue both ways. But I will say this: that back in the day,
the statistics in baseball prove astronomically that it's better to keep playing.
Really?
Well, the wild card teams, the teams that play the wild card, even the first play-ins, because they had the 1 game play-in thing for a little while. Then they had 2 out of 3 last year. They put that in, but then there wasn't as many teams, and everybody played the first round. Basically, the wild card team was winning more than the share of the teams with the best records since they put it into place.
Okay, so first of all, I don't know if you saw this, but there's that adult dating bot is in the chat.
Yeah, that always happens. I can just.
So if you want to figure out, you want to boot them. I mean, because it's one thing to put the adult dating site out there, but to cause Joanne Sluss to curse. Now this is not acceptable. When Joanne Sluss uses the S word in the chat, then you know that there's some negativity out there, because I can't have Joanne, newly married Joanne, to be cursing in the chat. I mean, she's
we don't want it either. And by the way, I don't know how they find all the DFS because they do it on the DK things all the time. It should be blocked now. But shouldn't be coming back again. So yeah, sorry about that, guys. Because I did get in the way of some questions, and I wanted to answer some of those questions.
Well, and the other guy that, again, we're scraping the bottom of the barrel here. If you're saying, I'm not going to lie, if I don't have a Clevenger, on the East Coast, I'm not going to lie and say I don't have a Quantrill.
Yeah, I do have Quantrill too.
So I do have a few of those out there. I don't have. Is that it? Did we get rid of all those pitchers, all the cheapos? Yeah, I'm not playing it. I'm not getting a Suarez, but because you're playing him, that's good enough for me. So I'm going to play some of it.
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, what do we have here?
we have the Houston Astros lineup is out. It's exactly what it was predicted to be. We have the question about is there a chance Trace plays today? There is. It's going to be hard to know what Roberts is going to do in this exact spot. I would hope that he doesn't play him. But if Chris Taylor's out, he actually may play. And he's been banged up, but they also gave him a longer rest because they didn't have any reason to play him down the stretch. And so hasn't played in a couple weeks. But if he's out, Trace will likely be in there. But it's not a guarantee with the Dodgers ever. But I would say it's unlikely that as of right now, I'm assuming Taylor plays and that Trace does not. Is Acuna worth the price, or would you drop to Harris or Grossman if you're stacking Atlanta? If I'm stacking, first of all, I don't believe that 5-man stacks are optimal in these situations. They're fine, but I don't think they're optimal. I'm not going to do it with any of my lineups, but I think that I wouldn't be trying to stack Atlanta without Acuna. I feel like that would be a really bad mistake, in my opinion. And Grossman might only get 2 at-bats also. He's another one that you have no idea of how much he's going to actually play. They like him versus lefties better than righties, although he still probably stays in. It's not 100%. How is it coming back again? Oh, no, it's not. It's not. That's a different message. No problem, Joanne. You're all good.
Your point's well taken about the Seattle, by the way. I'm like staring at this Seattle, this one lineup I have out of 30, right? But so it's not a big deal. But one lineup with like a 5-man Seattle stack. And it's in the $15, and the third thing I'm thinking about is just there's got to be something like better to spend $15 on. I can get like an overpriced drink in a bar for $15 and probably a little more enjoyment than trying to find 5 guys to hit Verlander in a row. I'm gonna get rid of that one. I mean, like I'd much rather listen. If I have to 5-man stack against one of those guys, it would be Cleveland instead of
me too.
Instead of Seattle, I think.
Yeah. Cleveland is
okay. So Brent is asking.
Good.
Oh, Brent's asking. I guess it's for you. Would you 4-man stack on FanDuel? I know you said you wouldn't 5-man on DK. How apply to FanDuel?
I appreciate that. That's a good question, Brent. I'm much better with the 4-man stacking on FanDuel in general, or the full stacking, as you know, which is obviously the most you can do over there, because the correlation does mean so much more points wise. It's so much more. It's 60% greater than it is on DraftKings that runs in RBIs. The correlation really doesn't mean that much on DraftKings as people think it does. It really matters more just trying to find a spot that a game goes off. The correlation on FanDuel is just so much greater than it is on DraftKings. So that would be my answer. So yes, I'm very good with 4-man stacking. And look, I'm fine if you want a 5-man stack, if there's a spot you really like. If it would be the Dodgers. And my problem with it stacking a 5-man with them is that, one, it'll be too popular. And that's really the biggest part of it, is that if I'm going to 5-man stack a team, I can't 5-man stack a popular team. So if I go 4-3-1 or 4-2-2 or something, I'm already getting at least different than what most people just click buttons and do, especially when it comes to the postseason. People are even or not the postseason, but games, spots where there aren't the biggest tournaments. Not everybody's trying to find every little edge. People just 5-man stack in these things. That's just what they do.
I have to say that. So the Philly-Atlanta game starts at 1:00.
Yeah.
The Seattle-Houston game starts at 3. The Cleveland-New York game starts 4 hours later. And then the San Diego-LA Dodgers game starts 8 hours after the first game. I'm gonna make the comment that the Dodgers are not that popular. That's what I'm saying. Their lineup isn't going to be out for a while. And
everybody knows who's playing though.
I think people are going to want to play some Atlanta's. I think they're going to want to play Houston's. They're going to want to get those guys in their lineups. And I think that I don't think the Dodgers are going to be as popular as you might think. We'll see.
Okay, it's possible. Yeah, I mean, it depends. Chris Taylor is really the only question mark. I don't think people care that much about the lineups in these situations, but maybe because Houston's is out early before the first game, I think there's a better chance for what you're saying to be correct. But yeah, I still think Mookie. You're going to see a lot of Mookie, Trey, but you're right. It's not they're not egregiously like high owned. It's just still hard to win tournaments when you're 5-man stacking from any of the most popular teams. That's why any ways to get different, and you can just give you a better chance. Yeah. Anyway. All right.
Yeah, so I think just so you guys know what I'm doing, I think in my main, I still think in my main lineup it's gonna be the two top pitchers and the Phillies. I think that's probably what's gonna end up happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in my other bigger one, I'll probably push it out to the Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what I'm gonna end up doing.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense to me. Um, even though I don't love stacking against Fried, I like the idea. See, that's one I would say that if I was going to stack against, I would definitely only stack 3 or 4. I mean, 3 would even be the most I would look, because the 5-man stack to get there, it's just so hard. And then if it does, then you lose Vierling, you lose the bottom of the order. So if you 5-man stack and you're playing either Vierling or Sosa, then you basically lose those guys they only get a couple of bats anyway. So you lose those because they're not going to play against righties.
They're not going to play against righties?
Yeah, they don't. I mean, well, they might for the first time this season get starts unless in the games that matter. They've basically been almost exclusively playing only against lefties. Not entirely. You'll get, maybe they do get their at bats. I just don't think it's a guarantee. I don't think it's a guarantee.
So it'd be Verling, and who's the other guy to worry about?
Sosa. I mean, theoretically, all of them. But it's not like they have like some awesome. I wouldn't. Maybe that's not the right thing. It's just really hard to get full runs off of a guy who doesn't walk people and doesn't give up power. But that's sort of, we could say, again, a lot of good pitchers out there today. And I also would point out that any righties you're using, you're hitting into 10-mile-an-hour winds, which is the only wind against you on the slate of the whole day. So that's why I'm not doing it.
And the other thing about I would not counter by saying that Verling's just 2,000, so I don't need.
He is, but what does it matter? I mean, when 3,400 for Castellano, the price, I don't think the price matters that much. I mean, for me anyway, the minimum guys. But you're also playing more two studs than I am.
Yeah.
So that's a little different. Joanne, that language, you're welcome to say that language again. Sheech was just playing around with you. Don't worry about it. But yeah, so I'm just that's just my logic for why I don't go for the full Philly stack if I was going to do it. What I do like though is you get it's going to be really low owned. You get the Schwarber, Harper, lefty, and the lefties shouldn't be affected by that wind in a negative way at all. And you get to hit in a great park. So kind of like the idea if you're going to play them to try to include Harper and Schwarber in that mix if I was going to play them. But so I think we've gotten caught up on the questions. It's been kind of fun, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Always drop in whatever thoughts or questions you have because it's fun to go back and forth. But I'm glad we have a bunch of you watching, and it should be a fun day of games. Go Dodgers. Still may end up buying tickets to the game tonight, but I always like the free tickets better. So I was hoping for.
So what happened? So you asked your rep to see if you can
I asked them. I asked them. They offered it to me for today, and I asked them for Friday instead. Because I will be at a bachelor party, and I've gone to plenty of Dodger home games in the playoffs. It's really fun to go to a playoff game, especially in San Diego. It's just right there. So that's my plan, is to go Friday no matter what, to game 3.
So a couple of announcements. So just so you guys know, I mean the NHL season starts tonight. Is it just a 2-game slate? I'm still waiting on a couple of models to show up. I'll put some projections up on that later. And again, because tonight being the night, I mean, we have no live to deal with tonight at all. No NBA yet. We'll get to that later. No football. Tomorrow is actually the first real big NHL slate. Let me ask you this, Bobby: is tomorrow's games day games, or is it like this?
I think there's only 2 games tomorrow, I believe.
Are they at night or?
I don't know why they're doing that because all the series are starting today. Why would they play one then take the day? They're just trying to stagger it, right? It's at 1:30 and at 5:30 tomorrow.
Okay, so what I think I'm gonna do just for fun tomorrow is I might do like a live before lock hockey tomorrow. Just because it's the first big slate, and anybody that's interested, I'll kind of go through, what everything how everything looks as far as the tools and all that stuff goes. I'll do it in the form of a live thing. Then Thursday we have the showdown slate, right? So we'll probably do something live for that. And just so you know, everybody knows, I'm in Virginia Friday through Sunday, so I won't be around for the Sunday live thing for football. But between now and then, we'll be doing all kinds of videos on all the sports. MMA is this weekend, so I'll be back with a video on that. Golf is this weekend. We'll do a video on that tomorrow, I imagine. All kinds of stuff, and all this is prepping for the real fun, which is, I guess, next week when the NBA starts. So and don't know exactly how we're going to be able to handle all of it, but we're gonna try our darndest.
We'll do it. We got it.
We're gonna try our best.
Yeah.
I think the first they already have in the lobby. Do they have the salaries yet? Hold on. They have in the NBA. They have October 11th. No, it's not that. So the opening day is the 18th, right? So Tuesday the 18th is 2 games, and then
same thing. Then it's the massive.
All right, good. So we'll be able to flex. We at least work on my sheets, work on whatever, make sure everything's good for the 18th, and then I guess the 19th, which is Wednesday, I suppose. Yep. That's when war is officially declared on DFS by everybody. So that will begin the basketball, baseball, football, hockey, and not to mention all the other stuff that we're trying to cover. And I still keep threatening to find more people to come and talk through some of these other sports with me. And it's just hard. It's just so hard. I mean, so much respect for some of these bigger sites, Bobby, that have to forget bigger sites. I mean, like, we're trying to do it with just 2 people. trying to handle all these sports, whatever it is. So I can see how you need all those people to really cover it, but we're doing our best. And any suggestions, just fire them off there and let us know.
Absolutely. All right. So with that, we're probably going to record an NFL early look coming up soon.
Yeah, sure.
Was a little bummed, by the way, I didn't get to the NFL. I was able to enter a few lineups, but I had I just didn't go for the full Josh Allen stack like I was going to. But that was one of my stacks. Was that?
So here's the thing that was really interesting to me, and just Rody and I thought did a pretty good job. We actually got through all the games.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys for that.
To handle that. One thing, I mean, I'm never sure what's going to happen with something like this. I want to talk about Shakira for just a minute. I don't know if you're following this, but pretty much all week, all content providers were saying, okay, Shakira's going to be a lock when McKenzie's ruled out. And then people got they were like, well, I want to play Shakira, but I prefer it if McKenzie's in because otherwise he's just going to be way too chalky and you're not going to be able to play him. So we waited. At 11:30, just as everybody thought, McKenzie was ruled out, and I first got 47% of him when I ran my builds after updating the projection. I was talking about this live, and I'm like, I don't know if I can play 47% of him. He's going to be pretty chalky, but at least I'll be over the field, so I'll play 40. Dude, he was 8% owned after all that.
Yeah,
and he scored 16.7, 3K. You didn't need him to win, but whatever. Right. But it's like interesting to me what happens with some of these ownerships, and I ended up making money on all 3 sites, nothing big or anything like that. But again, I've been just max entering the million in all, that's how I've been playing football.
Yeah.
And so far, listen, I had a couple of lineups that were trolling. They were cashing for 10K at one point. You know what I mean? But you have 150, and you play like mostly the good plays, and the good plays were doing really well last week. You're gonna have something that's close. I mean, I had like 20% Gabe Davis, so he was off and running before anybody knew it. Before anybody turned on their TV.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
But yeah, I mean, listen. NFL's it's tough to win $1 million. Put it that way.
It really is,
dude. I was sweating one guy. This one guy I know from he's a good dude. The guy's his name is Saul Goodman DFS, I think. Yeah. So he had the winning lineup going to 4:00, and all he had to do was fade the freaking uber chalk Cowboys defense, and he couldn't do it. I mean,
that's tough. Yeah,
Cowboys hit like a pick six within like 2 seconds.
Yeah, it happened right away.
And then, but even still, like going into like the fourth quarter, all the Rams had to do was score a touchdown without
that's brutal.
Without getting a sack or interception. But the Dallas defense is rough, man. They're just tough. They're both really sides of the ball. They're very difficult. So we'll
Yep, absolutely.
All right, sounds good.
Well,
so I guess you want to fire off something for NFL? We'll get a quick look or something.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
All right. Good luck, everybody.